So, what if I told you that being smart has almost nothing to do with how many facts you can memorize or what grades you got in school? Yeah, for most of us, our whole definition of intelligence is kind of wrong. So, let's break down what real intelligence actually looks like.
See, we're taught that being smart is all about what you know, but that's a total myth. True intelligence isn't about having a brain full of answers. It's about how you think. It's how you approach problems, and maybe, most importantly, how you handle the exact same stress that makes everyone else crumble. It's not a gift you're born with, it's a skill.
And here's the best part, it's a skill you can learn. We're about to break down 5 simple but really powerful habits that totally separate how highly intelligent people think. And you know what? These are easy to learn, but somehow most people just never figure them out.
Okay, let's dive into our first habit. This one tackles something we all deal with pretty much every day: disagreement. You know, our gut instinct is to just go on the attack, right? Well, this first habit is all about flipping that instinct completely on its head. Okay, so look at the difference here. The common reaction is basically a battle, right? You get defensive, you try to prove the other person wrong, you dig your heels in. But the smart habit, it's to get curious. Instead of fighting, you start asking real questions. Things like, hey, help me understand why you see it that way. You totally shift from trying to win to actually helping them think through their own idea.
And that's the absolute core of it, right there. The goal isn't to be right, the goal is to understand something new. The moment you stop fighting and you start asking questions, people let their guard down and you both end up learning something. The real victory is in the learning, not in winning the argument.
All right, on to habit number 2. This one is all about perspective. So many of us get completely stuck in the weeds, you know? One tiny setback feels like the end of the world. But intelligent people, they've really mastered the art of zooming out. So the typical reaction is to just panic. A project fails and you think, I'm a failure. You get rejected for something and you think, I'm not good enough. But the smart habit is to see these things not as a final judgment, but just as data. They zoom out to see the pattern. Okay, that didn't work. Why? Maybe they need a different strategy or a new angle. They don't panic, they start planning.
And this is such a key takeaway. Setbacks are not personal attacks. They are just information. Let that sink in. This tiny shift in your perspective can transform a huge, scary roadblock from a dead end into just a puzzle that needs to be solved. And that puts all the power back in your hands.
This leads us perfectly into our third habit, and this one is a real game changer. It's all about managing your most valuable and most limited resource, your mental energy.
Okay, just look at this chart. It's kind of staggering when you see it laid out like this. Most people spend the vast majority, like 80%, of their mental energy worrying about things they have zero control over. What other people think of them, the traffic, politics. And what does all that worry get you? Absolutely nothing. It just drains your battery without solving a single thing.
Highly intelligent people live by this really simple, almost ruthless rule. They just don't waste energy on things they can't control. I mean, think about it. You can't control if you get the job, but you can control how well you prepare for that interview. By focusing only on the things you can actually change, you free up a ton of energy to solve real problems and actually move forward.
Now, our fourth habit might actually surprise you. In a world that just never, ever stops talking, the smartest people in the room are very often the quietest. They get that silence isn't awkward. It's a tool. It's a power move. Think about it. Most of us are terrified of a pause in conversation. We rush to fill the silence, often just blurting out the first thing that pops into our heads. But the smart habit? It's to embrace the quiet, to actually be comfortable with it. They listen way more than they speak, and they use that silence to, think before they respond.
And here is the cool psychological trick behind it all. When you deliberately pause before you speak, you create this sense of anticipation. Your words automatically seem to carry more weight. People literally lean in. They assume that what you're about to say is really thoughtful and important, just because you took that extra moment to consider it.
And that brings us to our fifth and final habit.
And honestly, this one might be the most powerful of them all.
This is about mastering your own reactions.
You know, most of us live our lives on autopilot. Something happens and we just instantly react, usually with emotion. Someone cuts us off in traffic, we get angry. A rude email comes in, we snap right back. But the smart process inserts one tiny, crucial step: the pause. Between the trigger and the response, they create just enough space to take a breath and choose how to act.
At the end of the day, emotional control is a form of intelligence. By just pausing instead of reacting, you go from being a victim of your emotions to being in control of the whole situation. The person who thinks while everyone else is just reacting, well, that's the person who holds all the power.
And really, that's the secret, isn't it? Real intelligence isn't about being born a genius with some kind of photographic memory. It's about developing the habit of thinking before you act, of questioning before you fight, of zooming out before you panic. It's just a series of conscious choices that anyone can make.
But listen, don't try to master all 5 of these things at once. I mean, that's just a recipe for failure. The absolute best way to make a real, lasting change is to just pick one single habit to focus on for the next week.
So, what's it going to be? Will you try questioning instead of fighting in your next disagreement? Or maybe just focusing your energy only on what you can actually control? The real question is, which one of these habits will you choose to practice first? Because making that choice, that's your first step to thinking differently.